How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the House of Horror. Today, we're talking about a franchise built upon sequel after sequel, so we felt it was only appropriate to give you guys the sequel to the podcast that we started yesterday. That's right, we're going to be wrapping up ranking every film in the Friday the 13th franchise. We recorded it all in one shot, but we decided it was just too big to fit into just one episode. So as I said, this is the sequel to yesterday's show, so if you want to hear which film is ranked the lowest, make sure you check out that show first. But for the best of the best, you're at the top 5, you've come to the right place, and we're gonna get right to it. But before we do that, I want to remind you guys, if you haven't already, to please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on notifications so you know when I post new videos. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your show, make sure that you're hitting subscribe and leaving a rating and a review. So with that, we're just gonna get right to the show, so sit back, relax, and enjoy every Friday the 13th film ranked, Part 2. Now let's get spooky. Are we going? Are we plowing through the rest of this? Or what?
We initially talked about, honestly, for listenability, for the viewers, I was worried that maybe we should split it, but
it's up to you. I'd be down with whatever you wanted to do. If you want to plow through, or if you want to make it a two-parter, it doesn't matter to me. Whatever you're thinking.
Well, let's keep her going for a little bit, kids. Let's see if we can plow through this. We hope that you plow through this with us. Mocha is sleeping behind Buddy's ass now. He's definitely not plowing through with us, but...
Alright, if we're doing more, I'm going to get another beer, but you can go ahead and start talking about your top 5. Your number 5.
Alright, my number 5 will be the original Friday the 13th.
Legend.
I can't put... Honestly, probably up until some of these rewatches that I did for this, I probably would have had the original at number 3. I love the original Friday the 13th. I think it would work better as a standalone, obviously, but you can't say that. But, I mean, because of what happened. But I still think that it would be, if the entire franchise never happened, if they just did Friday the 13th, I obviously it wouldn't be on the level that Halloween is at. Especially with Halloween becoming the first really big slasher film. I mean, right. Big. You know, I'm not talking huge, Black Christmas, you know. But I do think that looking back, people would think that Friday the 13th is still special if it was the only one. I think that it would have. I mean, I don't know. Would it have held up?
I don't know
40 years?
I don't know if it didn't have that ending. If it would have. I think if it didn't have its ending, it would be kind of like a B-rate. Not like, I still love them, but I don't think it would be as acclaimed. Like it would be like with The Burning. It would be with stuff like that, you know?
I can agree with that. But I still think that it would have had legs and it would have had a huge following. Like, big following, at least within the horror community.
Right, yeah.
If Paramount, the only thing is, it had the benefit, regardless, of being before a lot of the films that we mentioned, the other big, slashers. So I think that it might have reached some kind of peak. Obviously, it wouldn't have not got to the, cultural phenomenon that it became in the 80s and, lasting, 4 decades later as a franchise. But what can I say that I didn't say earlier? I was trying to allude to some stuff. I will say, you said, how is Pamela Voorhees, pulling all this off? And then at the end, I
guess she's tired by the end of it.
Exactly. She's fucking tired, bro. She was driving in the rain. She's out in the rain, she's tired, bro. It's late. She had to kill a lot of camp counselors. She's old. She probably doesn't want to be doing this shit. She's having PTSD about her son dying, who's actually not dead. I think there's some absolutely phenomenal kills. Young Kevin Bacon. Savini, really starting to, coming off of Dawn of the Dead, coming off of Knight Riders, really starting to peek into, mainstream and really starting to show what what can be done with special effects. Right. Makeup effects. You know, I mean, there were some films that were doing this, but looking back, this coming out in 1980, a lot of the 70s stuff still was a little bit more basic stabbings or more, you know, more the paint red, which I love that. But Savini, between, you know, Dawn of the Dead and Friday the 13th, there is some of that stuff in Night Riders, even though it's not horror. He's really starting to change the game with special effects and what can be done. And what can be done on a relatively low budget.
Right, yeah.
I just love it. I think it's a great... I think it's the most different, obviously, because it's, you know, it doesn't have Jason. I mean, not really. It doesn't have Jason. I think that a lot of... It's hard to say this because it's part of one of the biggest franchises, but I think a lot of people would enjoy it more if it didn't have the whole franchise with it. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think it would have a huge, but like there would be like a stronger cult following for it being a good slasher
I think it's
film.
hard because as we've said, it's built on the sequels. So it's hard to, if the sequels didn't exist, like, yeah, it would probably be more of a cult thing. But now, since it's the most mainstream thing of all time,
Yeah.
it's hard to...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really know really what else can be said about it, you know? I mean, so what's your 5? What's your number 5?
That's my number 5. Number 5, we're getting into the top ones here.
Oh, wait, as you're looking at that,
Go ahead.
I think I said, and I can't remember if I fully explained, but until I started rewatching and revamping this list, I did say it, I would have had Friday the 13th at least at number 3, because I do like it that much.
This one's hard for me, part 5, because I'm looking at these right now and I'm not completely confident on what I want my number 5 to be. This could flip any day between 4 or 5. I think my top 3 are solid. 4 or 5, it's a little harder. Number 5, I guess, just because for the sake of right now and for the sake of it matching up, I'm going to do part 5 as my part 5.
Okay.
Had you told me that I would have liked part 5 as much as I did on this rewatch, I would have been shocked. Because I remember, even as a kid, I was like, this sucks in part 5. But, and it came out in 85, so it's a bunch of 5s. 555, one of your favorite films.
Oh my
ever.
God.
Everyone likes to pick on it because Jason's not in it.
That's the big spoiler of the whole podcast.
That's the big.
kids.
That's the big reason not to like this film. Just like the same reason not to like Halloween 3 is because Michael Myers is not in it. But if you look at it for what it is, I don't think that it's bad. I think it's in my top 5 out of the franchise. So obviously, I don't think it's bad. It's really ridiculous. It's probably we've all talked about all these good times having with your friends. I think this would be the number one
Yes.
to watch with your friends if you're drunk, if it's legal in your state to get high, like whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
This is the one to watch.
Yeah, I agree
with all your friends.
Cheers to that.
The humor is top notch.
Actually good. It's actually funny.
It's actually good humor.
It's actually funny, yeah.
The catalyst for all of this happening is someone getting murdered over a chocolate bar. Is the catalyst that makes all this go...
Well, okay, yes, but getting murdered for being an annoying motherfucker. And who's also picking on another man who's who's mentally deranged and is cutting wood. So
and he's got enough firewood. There's no reason for him to be cutting any more wood.
He's working out, bro. They're in the middle of the woods. They're at a fucking halfway house. I mean, I don't know.
The scene is one of the most ridiculous in the entire franchise, but it actually works and it's funny.
It kind of in the story. It makes the whole story, like the reason why everything's happening, kind of makes sense. You know, it's not such a far stretch. Does that make sense?
In regards to what?
Who the killer is and why the things are happening.
Here's the thing that doesn't make sense about this, the killer thing, and I will pick on it a little bit for this. At the end of the film, I mean, it's revealed that the Jason, quote-unquote, in this film is the father of this kid that gets murdered, the kid that was giving him the chocolate bar or whatever. They pull out this guy's wallet. Not only does he have a picture of himself in his wallet, this adult man, he also has a fully grown picture of his son, who apparently he hasn't seen in years or knew was even at this halfway house or what. How he got a modern picture of him to put in his wallet.
I think that they admitted that he knew, but he never wanted him to know. The boy to know. Or something. Like, that they gave some kind of, like, very vague explanation.
But how is he getting this picture of him? Is he just...
I don't know. There needs to be a little bit more explanation. I'll give it to you. Well, what else you got about part 5?
They make it so obvious that it's him, too, in the film. Because he shows up, he has, like, this big dramatic, like, camera shot of him. And I guess if you don't know going in that Jason isn't the killer...
it's not quite as bad.
I guess maybe in 85 it wasn't as bad, but nowadays, like, even if you're watching it for the first time, you know Jason's not the killer, like, you'd be immediately like, okay, it's that guy. Like, immediately, like, you wouldn't have to know it's his son, whatever, just from that one shot, you know who it is. There's so much hilarious shit in this. He shoves a flare in a guy's mouth.
I'm going to talk about this quite a bit later. I think this is, it's 85, very peak 80s, right before things go into more, like, humor. Like, even horror has a lot more humor. There are some moments that are, quote-unquote, suspenseful in this, where they still try a little bit. But it brought the humor of the franchise back. I mean, there's the wild kills, like killing the greasers, the greaser kids, where he sticks the road flare in his face. Yeah. Looks like a fucking jack-o'-lantern. Amazing. I'll pop every time for that kill.
The outhouse scene, incredible.
Well, also, too, another reason I like this, the axe murderer, the guy who kills, the guy who plays, I'll call him fake Jason, his son... The axe killer is the main punk from Return of the Living Dead.
Right, yeah.
And the guy in the toilet, which they call him Demon in this, right? That's his name. That's what the little boy calls him. It's Demon.
Something like, yeah.
Yeah. He is also from Return of the Living Dead. Yeah, so I like this. And then the guy who plays Tommy Jarvis in part 6 is also from Return of the Living Dead.
Right.
So I kind of have a little bit of a thing where I'm like, oh, man, because I'm... a huge Return of the Living Dead fan. Whole franchise, but I mean the first one, obviously.
Right.
So just to see them all in different Friday the 13th around the same time, like, I get a little bit of feels for that, I guess.
Part 5's Tommy Jarvis, though. Whenever you just say the name Tommy Jarvis, that's the one I think of.
True, yeah.
He's, like, the socially awkward one who apparently is, like, a fucking black belt or something. Like, literally does the fucking... like it's an attitude adjustment basically to this guy in the middle of the cafeteria. Insane.
And then he fights the which we haven't talked about, the hillbilly mom and son. I love them for some reason. I don't fucking know why. The son is so fucking stupid, and the mom is just such an ornery, horrible woman. But she's making her son, like, fresh stew and slop every fucking day. She wants to kill all those kids. She tells the sheriff she's going to murder one of them if they come on her property again. Yeah. Like, she's a ball of character, and she's not really like any of the other characters they put in any of these films, you know?
Right. I like every scene. It's hard to talk about this film without talking about every single scene. It's hard because I want my top Friday films to be more on the horror side of it, and this is mainly a comedy, which is why I have it on 5. But like with this top 5, like this is one that I think is easily adjustable for me. Like this part 5, like at one point I had it at 3. I almost put it at 4 right now, but I'll have it at 5. I love the fucking like the new wave, like goth girl in the bedroom doing the dance, hysterical.
I think this has one of the best group of like actors, kids, whatever. Like I like almost all of them, or understand like why they're there. Like even Tommy, like, I like this version of Tommy better than the Part 6 version of Tommy Jarvis.
Right.
Because it really, honestly, watching Part 5 to Part 6, you're like, this is the same kid.
Right, yeah.
Because he's way more audible, way more just, mouthy, talking constantly, way more expressive in 6. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no continuity. You can switch the actor and still keep maybe like a similar tone to the character or similar writing or thing like that.
It's completely different.
Completely different. But I'll talk more about 5 in a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
What else do I love about Part 5? Probably my favorite character and my favorite scene is the one kid that's like sitting on the couch with the girl and he's trying to convince her to have sex with him, and he's just like, I want to make love to you.
Yeah.
And she just starts fucking cracking up in his face, and then he gets pissed off and starts screaming at her.
all these kids have social issues, maybe juvenile delinquency records. Like, they're all in this halfway house in the middle of nowhere. All these kids have come from some kind of issue. Maybe broken homes, whatever, nowhere to go. The main kid, the kid that gets killed that sets everything off, whose father is the paramedic. He doesn't. They say he has nowhere to go.
Right.
He has literally nowhere to go. I mean, so all these kids, obviously that kid that we're talking about there, it is very funny. I love it. It's not smooth to the ladies either way, but he clearly has issues, and I feel bad for him because he goes upstairs. He wants to talk to, I think, Violet is the goth girl's name, right? I don't know why that sticks out.
I don't know.
And, she's just so in her music and, like, won't listen to him and, whatever. I have some sympathy for this group of kids. Do you have anything else?
No, not really. Because, we'll talk about it again with yours, so
Yeah.
if I have anything else to say.
So, my number 4, huh? These, I guess, would be a little bit easier. I will say that 3 or 4 of mine definitely changed in the franchise. I wasn't surprised because of how much I love the franchise and how many films there are, but I'm going to go with Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, is my number 4.
Okay.
So, this is another one that, for some reason, hasn't eluded me. I want to use that, but I didn't watch this one as much as the other ones surrounding it growing up. It was almost like one where I think I fell in love with a later one in the franchise that we'll talk about so much that I didn't give 6 enough of a chance until I was a little bit older. And then I also, other ones that I enjoyed. I don't want to spoil it too much. I know we're getting to the end, but
There's only a couple left.
I know. But, and I think this is one of the ones, too, where I always watched it with either the first couple times I watched it with people around, something else going on, or I was tired, and I've always wanted to watch this one more because a lot of people also really love this one.
Right.
Obviously, this is the introduction of Zombie Jason. It starts with Tommy Jarvis having to go see Jason's grave. It's the shittiest, funniest grave of all time for a fucking mass serial killer who shouldn't even have a grave. Who paid for the fucking grave? Should have been cremated into a zillion fucking pieces and thrown all over the earth. He convinces the other guy that's at his, like, quote-unquote mental hospital to break out or whatever they do and go dig up the body and make sure he's dead or whatever. And they accidentally get Jason to be struck by lightning and revived and, whatever. It's interesting. It's very 80s. It's very camp. And then they're dealing a lot with the local law enforcement. They don't want to believe that Jason's, alive. They rename Crystal Lake, right? To a new, like, because they don't even want to be associated with the history.
So that's the one when I got confused with Part tour or whatever, because in part 2 they're at the camp next door. In this one, they're actually at Crystal Lake, but they called it something else.
Yeah, they renamed it because they're trying to basically erase the history of Jason and the murders and everything like that.
Fun fact, this one and part 2 are the only ones where Jason is killing the camp counselors. All the rest is like partiers or whatever.
Yeah.
And the first one, it's not Jason. Just this one in part 2 is the counselors.
Yeah. So anyways, lots of great kills. It does, the guy that plays Tommy Jarvis is the lead from Return of the Living Dead 1 and 2. Like I said, soft spots in my heart. The writing, some of the acting and writing, like with his character, is not really his fault. I don't believe. I think it kind of just the way that it was written. He just tried to do the best he could with it. Zombie Jason, obviously amazing, fun. It's a fun way to do it. It's hokey, very. I feel like old school horror right there. He gets struck by lightning, he's revived, dun dun dun. He's back from the dead. I like that. Another one that I just rewatched this. I enjoy it more on each watch again. I did fall asleep a couple times and I had to finish back up, so I would have liked to be able to stay awake and watch it all the way through. But really, I would say the beginning part of this film, to me, I don't know if it's because I've watched the beginning so many times, is more memorable than the rest of the film. I do think it has a strong start, an interesting start. Obviously, I remember the end where they're out in the water and the boat and stuff like that. But another one that keeps rising. This one used to be
way lower.
Way lower. I
told you don't sleep on it.
I think you did say that, yeah. But it's a fucking banger. I think we're gonna talk about it more in a bit here. But that's all I'm gonna say about it right now.
Okay. My part 4. I mean, my number 4 is part 7.
Okay.
The New Blood.
Okay.
I guess the only thing in hindsight that's a double-edged sword with this one really leans into the supernatural element to it. I mean, the whole main character's like a psychic or whatever, and that was sort of, all right, the next one, what's the next ridiculous thing we're going to do? What's the next ridiculous thing we're going to do? I mean, part 6 had that as well, but that was just getting Jason alive again. It wasn't like a main thread throughout the story is, okay, there's a bunch of crazy shit happening like all the time, like supernatural, like ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
This is the one that really started going down that road, for better or for worse.
Right.
I don't know, man. You love this one, so I know we're going to talk about it a lot when it gets to yours as well. I think it's by far the best looking Jason.
Yes, okay, that's something that I was going to bring up. I think when you think of the brooding, dark, menacing, especially undead freak Jason, or Jason they based a lot of action figures, shirts, other things like this is the look that
this is the zombie Jason.
I mean, you see, I brought up the back of the cover just for that. I mean, you see, that's your fucking guy right there.
Yeah, he's got the back coming apart and all that kind of stuff. This is the first time we see Kane Hodder in the role. A lot of people have mixed feelings about him as Jason. I think he's probably the best. He's the most recognizable. He played it the most.
He was Jason in 6 again. That's what I was wondering.
I don't think he was in 6. I think it was part 7.
No, I know, but I say who was. I can't remember.
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember who it was. What else? I fell down a rabbit hole when I was watching this film.
Okay.
So it might have been able to even go higher, but literally I was on like IMDb and Letterboxd the entire time watching this because I'm just like, who is that actor? What's going on in this? The one main doctor or whatever is Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's, and I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
God,
and I'm looking that up. I fell down this whole thing where there's all these fan films that are going on like right now within the past like 2 or 3 years where they've gotten all the original actors back from part 7 and are continuing the story.
I know, yeah. Because I've watched clips of some of them, and people have like Dylan's brother has sent me some of them and stuff too, yeah.
And so literally I'm watching part 7 and I'm just like on my phone the entire time, just like what the hell is going on? Like I literally felt insane watching part 7, and then there's all the fucking lightning strikes, like fucking psychic bullshit going on, and I'm just like, and I wasn't on drugs either. just like going insane. I don't know, it's just crazy. It's Jason. The supernatural is to the full extent, but up until now, all the characters in the situations were normal, as I said. This was the first one where it stops being like that.
She has the telekinesis.
I love Jason in this film throwing the heads around. He like throws a decapitated head at a tree. He survives the house exploding, but then he gets shot a couple times, and he's going through something really rough, getting shot a couple times, but he can survive the house explosion.
Well, he can always, his health gauge is pretty low at that point after that.
The absolute worst thing about this film, and it's one of my least favorite things in the entire franchise, which is why I probably can't justify putting it any higher. The ending is horrible. With the dude's dad coming out of the lake and pulling Jason down, and then that's the end.
I know.
But other than that, I mean, great kills, great special effects. Kane Hodder's great, obviously.
The director was a special effects artist, so that's why I think some of the,
But yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it more when you get to it. I mean, you'll be getting to it soon. So
we're in the top 3 now, huh? Is that what we're doing?
We're in the top 3, yeah.
Well, this has also changed, as I said, because I used to have maybe, around number 3 was the original Friday the 13th. So, number 3, I'm going to go with, God, man, this is where it does. This is really
I have faith in you that you're going to put a certain one at number 1 so we can talk about it together. I'm hoping that's how this works out, but
I almost was going to completely throw the Buddy House of Horrors universe off. Almost. I don't even know. I will say right now that my top 3, like, is doing some rewatches and stuff, and every time I do, it's closer and closer. Like, these are definitely, like, to me, like, all, like, if I was going to rate them at a star rating or something, they'd all probably be, like, a quarter of a star difference, if that.
Right, yeah.
Like, man.
You only got 3 left to pick from.
I know. I'd like to say before I do this top 3 that I think the last 3 are each perfect Friday the 13th films in their own ways for their own things. And it's kind of funny because they're all I don't want to say different. You can't even say era, but they're all separated by a few years. They are like different parts of the evolution of the story of Friday the 13th.
It's 2 different eras, and then the one that's in the middle.
Yeah.
For your, because I mean, there's only 3 left you can pick from, so I know what they are. It's just whatever order you're doing them in.
So, and one of them jumps every time I watch it. I mean, I think everyone already knows that is, but I guess I'm gonna put. Oh man, guess I'm gonna put New Blood at number 3.
All right.
So, and I know I've done the horror sequels podcast, and I like everything like that, but man, my top 3 I was really struggling. I was gonna flip flop. There was gonna even be some, it would affected the continuity. Of the top 10 lists of the other things.
Of the horror sequels.
Yes, it would have. I think that this is the only franchise I can say that would do that for me. If anything, it'll make you a little happier. Halloween and Halloween 2 are close, so maybe. But I think I did mention that before. Part 7 has the fucking sleeping bag kill. I'll start with that. I think it's just a fucking hilarious kill. The unedited version of that, if anyone's ever seen it, it's Jason
I've seen it.
hitting the body into the tree
Like
about
17
seven to 10 times. And they never cut away from it. He's just slamming a body into a tree in a zipped up sleeping bag. And he looks like he's having the time of his fucking life.
Because it's just once, right? In the film, it's just bang.
The bang, and that's it, and he drops it. But in the original version, it was supposed to be for like fucking almost a minute straight of him doing this. And Paramount, supposedly this is the one that Paramount like cut the most, gutted the most. Like, this was supposed to be, I don't think it was supposed to have the meanness or the brutality of Final Chapter, where like very quick kills,
right, yeah.
very like quick edits with the kill, so it's very violent feeling, almost like you're being stabbed. Or like, does that make sense with the screen? Like, this was, you're just kind of, it's like almost like you're a voyeur, you're watching it, but it's a little bit more paced out Jason.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of scenes in this where Jason is just walking through the woods menacingly, if you remember that.
Yeah.
And he always has a different weapon. This is something I always want to know. Jason uses the most different weapons in the entire series in this film, and I absolutely love that. It's just Jason's like, I'm going to go kill someone. I better find some other insane object to go murder them with.
He's like, shit, I've been doing this for however many films.
It's just like, I just see him be like, oh, here's my woodshed. I'm just going to get, this and this. And I like the telekinesis aspect of it. I think it's different. It's interesting. I completely get, I'm very easy to see the other side of the coin where I understand it doesn't fit in. It can cause some problems with this, introducing supernatural stuff with a non-Jason character. But then on the flip side of that, Jason's now a fucking zombie. So why can't a woman with telekinesis exist? I mean, it's very plausible in this new Friday the 13th universe. I just think that's some amazing kills. I think there's the weird interactions with the doctor and the daughter's mom. Mm-hmm. The group of kids partying across the road. She obviously being a more sheltered teen and dealing I think really being kind of hidden away almost. She sees this group of kids and really, she wants to know what it's like to be a teenager and to have fun and not be kind of quote unquote studied or a freak.
Right, yeah.
She has all this guilt about her father. There almost could be just a supernatural film based on just their two stories with removing Jason completely.
Yeah, Jason's, yeah.
It could have been just a drama, like some kind of thriller drama, and just ramped up some gore effects or something on that on its own. We talked about Jason, the iconic look. They show him with his open back and him decaying and everything like that. I think the ending is the weak point, but I'm gonna say, in my opinion, the right into the last couple minutes, the climax in most of the Friday the 13th films, they're good, and then they just make a last minute decision that kind of derails it, and almost in every film, to be honest, where you're like, you couldn't have come up with anything else or ended a little differently. Like, when I really think about that, I guess that'd be my biggest gripe with the entire series,
the entire franchise. Yeah.
Like, not that that's necessarily bad, but the road leading up to it, even maybe the 5 minutes before that, are absolutely incredible. And then they make one decision, and it's like, all right,
Even going back to the first film, they don't know how to end these things.
Yeah. And I guess that'd be, as you mentioned, the biggest gripe with this one. I do like that he's back, kind of tied down, hunkered down to the bottom of the lake. Yeah. There's the good scenes of him floating in the lake, laying dormant until whatever happens next. I think this one is essential to view. I mean, I know the telekinesis is a little bit different than the rest of them, but just the way Jason acts, Kane Hodder, the gore, even the directing in this, and the writing and everything, I'd say this is probably one of the stronger written ones, acted ones, directed ones. I think overall, I will say, as much as I talked about four for the most part, I think they're doing too much. There's too much in the script for only the 91 minutes. I do think that's well directed, things like that. I don't think the script is as good as part 7, but I would say overall, usually when I recommend what I consider maybe the best made Friday the 13th of them sequels, I'd go with this one. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, what do you got for 3?
Number 3, I guess sort of along the same lines as part 7, because it was the film right before it, is part 6, Jason Lives. I've always been a sucker for this one. Part of it is because of nostalgia and because of films I already like, and part of it is just because this was the first film of that new era, and it really took things in a good direction for me. This is the first one where the first 4 were low budget, kind of campy. The 5th one is kind of its own thing. This is the first one where this is a big Hollywood kind of horror film.
Yeah.
Right from the opening credits, it's throwing back to the films that I love from the 30s. They're Grave Robbing. They're going right out of a fucking Frankenstein film, even down to Jason's reveal, revived by lightning.
I know. I saved that for you because I was almost gonna say it, and then I was like, no.
And even like if you've watched the original Frankenstein film, the way that they reveal Frankenstein, well, the monster, obviously not the doctor, the monster, Frankenstein's monster, turns around. It's a series of jump cuts that go up to his face because I mean this is the 30s. They're not doing these camera movements. They do the same fucking thing with Jason in this film, where they're just cutting closer and closer to the face, and then they do the whole James Bond thing or whatever. It's great. The music in this is phenomenal. You got like three songs by Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
Including the title track. Everything about this film I just love, except for the human characters. That's the one thing about this film. I'm not into the human story, which is fine because this is the first one where you're cheering for Jason.
Right.
This is the first one. It's like, all right, how many people is he gonna go through in this film? This is the first one where he's the star. Like the humans, like it doesn't even like you have Tommy Jarvis there, but this is the third actor that's played him. It's, in my opinion, I know you love this actor from other things, but I think this is the least memorable of the Tommy Jarvises that you have.
I can't even, like I said, I don't know if it's a script or the way they wrote him, but I completely agree. I mean, I agree on that. I can't.
So the weakest element to this one is the human story, but for that, it doesn't even really matter to me. Jason's actually played by 2 different actors in this one. Because the first guy, they didn't like the way his body... Basically, Jason had cake in the paintball scene. There's the infamous Jason ass shot. And whatever, the producers didn't like it or whatever, they made them cast someone else for Jason for the rest of the film. Again, tons of horror references throughout. Like, the town next door is Carpenter. Like, after John Carpenter, obviously.
Right.
There's, like, Karloff's, like, general store or some shit. Like, there's all this fucking crazy shit in it. It has a lot of humor in it as well.
It does.
Being this deep into the franchise. I mean, there's the infamous, like, jump cut scene where, like, the old dude is like, what, do you think I'm a fart head? And then it cuts to all the kids at, like, the after-school program going like, yeah! Or whatever. There's, like, all kinds of ridiculous shit in it. There's the van scene where apparently that was actually the producer's van and they were getting back at him at the last day and actually fucking flipped his van.
Jeez.
So much crazy shit in this. There's the crazy dude in the paintball game who was like really like sexist and he's like pissed that like the girl was beating him at paintball.
Right.
Just everything about this film is hilarious to me. But like in a good way. It's not in some like part 3 like, oh, you might be laughing for the wrong reasons. Like this one has the humor dialed in
this is the only one and why I look. Maybe not the only one, but one of the ones where the person who directed it actually wrote it as well.
Yeah, he was able to do everything. Yeah.
And this is what's his face. Tom McLoughlin, or whatever you say his name. I know the name. I know he directs some other horror films. I know he's an older director, so that's what I
Right.
wonder if that, like, some of the references that you were bringing up. I feel like he's kind of like, a huge fan of early cinema, so that's why I always got that. He kind of was able to put a lot of his own references and homages in the film.
I mean, it's the same thing now. I mean, all the filmmakers now reference the 80s and 90s and shit like that. It was the same thing back then. Again, the humor's very good. I mean, he like slams the guy's head against the smiley face in the woods. It feels like it doesn't have the best kills out of the franchise. It doesn't have the best story out of the franchise, but it's the first one where, like, if you're looking at it, it kind of has the total package of everything that Friday the 13th will be, and is. It has the big budget stuff, but it still has some of the campiness and the goofiness, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, even though it is... I guess I hold it to a higher standard than some of the older ones, I guess.
I think the middle of the franchise holds up really well if you're just going to go in and watch a Friday the 13th film. Like, even more so than... Because 1 through 4 are all pretty different film to film. They don't really know what it is yet. I mean, they're getting there, but you have, Pamela Voorhees as the killer, the POV stuff. You have Baghead, Sackhead, Jason.
It's still looking for its identity.
Yes. Where even 5, even though it doesn't have Jason, it kind of has the direction where it wants to go, starting to get, like, the right template. And then 6 and 7, 5, 6, and 7, they also do have, even 5, I know that you talked about this one being 6 being the one with, like, the bigger budget and stuff, but 5 had a much bigger budget than the early ones. I mean, it starts to get where 5, 6, and 7, they have a lot more to work with. I think they even have,
But like you said, with part 6, that's the first one where they have, like, a real seasoned kind of guy coming in to make it.
Yeah. Well, are we down to this?
We're down to our top 2.
Top 2. Well, before we did this podcast, and Buddy goes, well, he knows my love for part 5. My love for part 5, A New Beginning, grows with every passing year. I'll just say that. He's like, you better not put the only film that doesn't have Jason as your number 1 Friday the 13th film.
I don't care about that.
I know, but you did say that. But I'm going to put Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, at number 2.
Okay. Good.
I will say it's teetering on the edge sometimes of being up there or tied with my number 1, which, if anyone's keeping track this long, they know what it is. I love Part 5. Part 5's the one that you shouldn't love, but it's got everything. It's I think maybe
it's got almost everything.
To me, it's got everything. It's got the best tits in the entire fucking franchise. The cutest girl, my girlfriend Midnight Marissa admitted that. The cutest girl with the best tits in the franchise.
One last thing about Part 6: the only Friday the 13th without nudity.
See, that's what it's. That's why it took me so long to get into it. Fuck. But I like the little kid who's staying there. He's funny. Tommy's really good in this, as he should be, like, mentally scarred from the things he endured as a child. They go out and meet the little kid. Is it Richie? Is the little kid's name?
I can't remember his name. He's great, though.
Yeah, he's great. He has the super funny moment where he sees Jason and he screams like the highest pitched scream of, even for a little boy, a little kid. it's I mean, if I heard that in theaters, my head would have exploded Scanner style. I mean, thank God your parents didn't go to that, or you might not be here today. He's great. Both of the main, like, counselor, whatever people are both very good too. You see the woman a lot more. She's really trying to take care of the kids and, like, really wants to rehab them. Like, this is probably the first one where, I'll say that loosely, but where, I don't know. I really like both groups in the first two. But overall, I felt for the kids. This one, I will say, okay, this is the first one to have the most characters that are actual more individuals.
Right.
Yeah. The goth girl, the kid with the speech impediment, the kid with the chocolate bar, the angsty axe-cutting teen.
Right.
The little Richie kid, Tommy. Like, they have more of an identity than, let's say we were talking about 4. They're just all, guy 1, 2, and 3. Here's the chicks they want to fuck.
I'll say there's another film which it'll get talked about.
Okay.
Where the characters are all different, defined, but there's a lot more of them and it can get confusing. This is the one where, like, all right, we know who we're working with, and they're all very different. But I won't say it's the first film that did this.
No, I won't say it is either. But I still feel like these guys, this group,
it's more drastic. I'll say that.
It's more drastic. Yes, that's perfect. I love the hillbillies. I think it's a nice touch. The paramedic thing. There's the scene that you didn't mention with the older paramedic guy that makes fun of the other paramedic who's seeing his dead son, and just tell him, pick the body up, let's go. He wants to go. He's gonna go fuck the local waitress. He's revving his fucking car and blowing the coke, and he dies. The waitress is
still with the gum in his mouth.
Yeah. The waitress is getting chased around. She has that great scene where she's, like, perking up her tits and spraying some stuff on it, and just very, like, funny 80s dumbass shit.
It's one of the trashiest in the franchise, if not the trashiest. One thing about this paramedic is, how is he able to pull off some of these feats? He, like, burst through a door at one point, like, unscathed.
He's a big fucking dude, though. Well, all right, I know. We're suspending our disbelief a little bit again. I even like the Jason mask where they're like, it's a fake Jason with the blue, accents and stuff like that. I think it's cool. I don't know. I love this film. I think this one, the whole ending, this maybe as one of the better endings of the franchise, and, like, the quote-unquote reveal, even though, you kind of put it together. I don't know.
I would have loved to see a scene where Jason goes to the jail where they're detaining this guy and kills the guy that killed his son.
Incredible.
He makes it out alive. I mean, we can assume he makes it out alive.
Yeah. I think if this one would have been Jason, it never would have got any shit, because it's just it's amazing. But all right, what's your number 2?
My number 2, I know Miles hates it for some reason, but I am, as everyone else is, I love Part 4. It's number 2. It's got everything that you want from those early films. It's obviously process of elimination. It's not the best out of the early films. But I don't know. I mean, Savini's back. I love Crispin Glover in this. I think he's really good.
He is good in it. I'll give you that.
It's a shame he didn't survive till the end. I love that it picks up right where Part 3 left off with the body still.
Yeah, I know. I was waiting. I was waiting to talk about. That is good. It has a really good beginning.
There's just so many insane moments about this, and like you said, it can be a little distracting at parts, and it's hard to talk about without talking about every single scene. But I mean, you've got the coroner watching that aerobicized tape.
I did leave that too, because that beginning. I will say this film starts super fucking strong, and then I think it gets convoluted, like I mentioned otherwise. But, like, The aerobic scene is absolutely incredible. I wanted to see that nurse naked because I think that she's cute.
You're the worst
And
ever.
I always, as I was watching this last night before we did this, I'm like, I love in 80s films, coroners are always eating.
They're
on
always
top
so
of
sleazy.
They're so sleazy. They're setting their food or touching dead bodies with one hand and eating with the other.
It's always the worst. It's always like a fucking like turkey like deli sandwich.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
like the loose meat is like hanging off.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
always the worst shit of all time.
Or if they're not even like, let's say not even just a coroner, a hospital worker, they're always fucking next to a dead body. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the girl's literally acts like it's the best thing of all time. She's getting railed out next to a not even fucking cold corpse yet. And then they act like she doesn't realize that a 6-foot-something man's body is on the table next to her that she's fucking next to. Like, I don't know.
There are some weird moments, like Corey Feldman is gonna get out of the car and fix the engine, like this 10-year-old kid. Like,
I feel like they try to make it seem like he's a genius without saying he's a genius, but like he's the man of the house because his dad and mom are divorced, and the sister hopes they get back together, and the mom's like, "Oh, did he ask about me?" Like, it's just like the family dynamic is just all over the place in it, you know?
yeah. I mean, I just love a lot of the atmosphere this film builds. I love the colors. I love the rain and the wood. Just like everything about this, like building your mood, building your atmosphere.
It does, you know, like I said, that, you know, this one is definitely this one's probably quote unquote the scariest, the least amount of humor. I mean, obviously the aerobic stuff like that.
Yeah.
Intentional but unintentional. If you're a man, you're really going to enjoy it. You're going to think like, but pretty much after Jason is back or is not dead, then it's like horror. Besides a little bit of the kids' humor, you know.
Right. It's got amazing kills in it. I love when they're watching like the 16 millimeter like films or whatever. He gets like stabbed through it, and then the blood is just on the screen,
yeah,
or
the
whatever.
pull-down screen, yeah.
Incredible. Like the tent. There's another tent kill in this, which is really good. I love the slow motion stuff with the music getting tossed onto the car and the glass shattering everywhere. I think it works well for this film. I'm glad that they only really did that here. Like they did, I mean, nothing to that extent outside of this one.
Yeah.
It has its like own identity in that way.
It does, yeah.
I love the look of Jason in this one. I love that they brought it back to the way he looked in the first one. And also I like that there's just more diversity with the characters in this one. Because, I mean, this is the first time we had a kid in a Friday the 13th film. Like, it's nice seeing a little bit different. And then from that into part 5, you're getting another kid, and you're getting all these teenagers who have different personalities and stuff like that. It's not just, oh, the camp counselors, oh, the kids coming to have sex or whatever. It brings in a new element, which they kept through some other ones. Like, you get to see different types of characters, and, like, he's killing adults in the paintball scene and shit like that in some of the other films. So, like, it's not just the teenagers. So, yeah, I love part 4. I love that Tommy Jarvis is into horror movies and shit as a kid. Reminds me a little bit of my childhood.
Right.
With the horror posters. I wish I had the mask and shit that he had.
Yeah.
Back then.
The animatronic that he's supposed to make or whatever.
Literally insane.
Yeah, and beyond hard.
But yeah, part 4, very good. But we both only have one left. There's only one film left. And we can agree. I wouldn't have said this before.
I couldn't believe. I was like, wow, we're really building to this, huh? This moment, huh?
If there was a Friday the 13th film that I could pop in and watch, I'm almost certainly going to pick part 2.
The god tier of fucking Friday the 13th. Doing this podcast, and I would have liked to, granted we don't have enough time, it'd be cool to do a complete behind the scenes stuff with Friday the 13th, because I feel like as a franchise, each of the Blu-ray releases probably have some of the most like interesting special features and like behind the scenes stuff compared to other franchise stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of freaking special features on these discs, like makings of, deleted scenes, everything. I mean, I still haven't got to really dig into the full content of this, which is kind of nice for me as a fan, because one day I will. I'll go down that rabbit hole. Some of the stuff I know from watching Crystal Lake Memories, I've only seen that once though, and some of it I don't really remember. But two's the one that I've probably watched the most. 2, I believe, is what, the shortest to 81 minutes? 86? Oh, wait, so 2 and 6 at the same time. They're both 86 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, most of that one's flashback, though.
The first 15 minutes are flashback, because I think I've counted before. Flashback, and actually not just flashback, added scene, like the scene where they actually Jason goes to the final girl from the first one's house, where she's living, and kills her. So it is new, but it kind of caps off the end of 1, and you see the new group of camp counselors and what they're going to do. In
this one, I mean, I'm thinking of this one just now. This is the film, because, like, if you're going to pop in part 4, you might be a little confused. This is the one that if you were going to pop one in, since it does have that flashback at the beginning, this is the one you would have no problem.
No problem. You can watch it at any given time. Amazing. So, before we go into it more, what made you change your mind then, huh? Where you brought it up to number 1?
After rewatching them again. Because I would have said before watching this, it was like part 4, like, duh.
Yeah.
But when I'm thinking, like, what am I looking for in a Friday the 13th? What do I think of when I think of Friday the 13th? I think of people sitting around a campfire telling the story. I think of Camp Crystal Lake. I think of Jason doing what Jason does.
Yeah.
Like, in part 4, there's so many moving parts to it. This one is the quintessential, this is what Friday the 13th is.
Yeah.
The one thing that people can knock on it is that it doesn't have the classic Jason in it.
Yeah.
If there was a scene at, like, the very end, like, literally the last scene is, like, oh, Jason wanders up and he finds the mask or whatever. Like, no one would have any complaints about anything in this, like, at all. Like, I think it's the perfect Friday the 13th film. If you, like I said, like, that's what really made it between part 4 and this, and even part 6 or 5 or whatever. Like, if I'm gonna pop one in right now, that's the one I'm gonna pick. Like, that's how it came down to it.
I agree. It has amazing kills. I really like the whole group of camp counselors more than the initial group. Like, there's the ginger kid.
I'll say this right now for you. Every male character in this film, for the most part, is Miles.
Oh my God, no, it's not. Stop.
There's the Joker kid. Miles loves to joke around. There's the one kid that kind of looks like Miles, the one that wears, like, the paperboy hats. He's got the long blonde hair.
I'll talk about that more in a minute.
Miles with the slingshot. Come on, bro.
Nice try.
Even the wheelchair kid, because Miles loves a good arm wrestle.
Oh yeah, that's how we got COVID, bro. I used to like arm wrestling a lot. Now my fucking arms, I'm weak. I'm weak. Back when I used to work out. But I told the story before. I'll tell it again for the sake of what time it is right now. But the kid who looks... Okay, so I was talking about the ginger guy, the Joker.
Right, yeah.
He takes the couple's truck when they're going into town to... Which, all right, real quick with the franchise... I love the early stuff in the early couple films when the counselors like trying to get to the camp.
Lake.
I don't know why I love that. Like, I don't know what it is. I think because part of it is still, these are the very early 80s and it still almost has like a 70s Americana feel.
Right.
It's not like so much like glitz and glam, Diet Coke, flashy 80s girls or shitty rich 80s girls. These are like pretty regular, like, American kids that are just trying to make some money for the summer and have a good time. Doesn't mean get fucked up, but just, be a joker or, you know, fuck around with your friends, make memories. Like, it's not so much about getting fucked up out of your mind, getting fucked out of your mind, or being an asshole. Like, it's,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. It's cool. I love Hillbilly Sackhead Jason. He's not a perfect killer. He doesn't really know how to kill yet. He makes a bunch of fuck-ups in this film.
Oh, yeah.
Which I love. Like, because I think this is one of the only slasher films I can think of where the killer, like, just makes a bunch of fuck-ups. Like, that, like, almost, like, costs him killing or, like, stalking the main person he wants to get or getting hurt himself.
Right. I mean, some other things I, like, love about the film is, like, it's kind of charming, I guess. Oh, in a way.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
There, like you said, Jason is kind of clumsy. Like, there's a lot of, like, weird stuff, like, from a filmmaking standpoint that you can just tell they were just, I don't know. Like, even something as simple as, like, when he shoots her in the ass with the slingshot or whatever, she grabs, like, the wrong side. Like, it's, like, a little mistake that's, like, oh, we probably didn't have time to reshoot this or, like, whatever it is. Like, there's like, not only is Jason making little mistakes here and there, I feel like they were making little mistakes, like, behind the scenes, too, which I really like. Like, it's not a perfect film.
Yeah.
I don't know, just everything about it just kind of hits. I don't know. I like that Jason hasn't found his full identity yet in it. I like the way Jason looks in this when he is demasked.
Yes.
I think that ending, that whole climax is really well done.
Really well done.
When he, like, comes through, not when he's unmasked, but, like, when she's, like, locked in there and he comes through the window, like, by the side. And shit like that. That whole, like, climax portion is really good.
Oh, it's amazing. It has arguably the best set piece in the film with the shrine to his mother and her. Now, I already knew her name was Amy Steele, the actress. For some reason, I don't know because the last name Steele. I always remember that, but I've watched this film a ton. I think her character's name is Ginny.
Ginny,
yep. Like, but like Jin, like.
Yeah,
like Ginny, and her character just seems to be able to adapt on the fly like almost no other final girl. I have a tattoo that says "Final girls always win" with the Jason mask below, and the girl with the blood, and she's a little done up, but it's really because of this film.
Right.
Because this was one of them I remember watching, and I'm like, man, that girl is a badass. Like, she legit is, like, adapting to each situation in a realistic way. It's not like she's just finding a machine gun and, like, oh, I can shoot this machine gun I've never shot before. Like, it's a completely realistic scenario. There's nothing supernatural about this. So there's some freak hillbilly in the woods that is trying to kill me and my friends. I don't know why, but I have to figure out how to survive the night.
Right. And this is one, like I said, like I alluded to it earlier, but this is the one where all the characters are really defined with their distinct person. Like we said, we have the Joker, we have
the couple, if you want to even just put them together. You know,
you have the pervert guy. The dude in the wheelchair has his own distinct personality. He's like, oh,
he's a nice guy.
I don't want to go get drunk at the bar because no one wants to see a drunk guy in a wheelchair. It's going to be embarrassing. And they give her backstory that comes back later because, like, they say she was a child psychology major or something. Yeah. So then when she's going to outsmart Jason, she's using that to trick him. And then they also give some backstory because it's the big cliche that in horror films the car never starts or whatever. Yeah. Her car's fucked from the beginning. Yeah. So,
and you know, even the lead camp, like the head of the camp. I
forget his name.
But
it's like Todd or Paul.
Steve, Paul. I think it might be Paul.
It's something like that.
For some reason, I want to think his name's Steve, but I think it is. I think you're right. I think I can see her in my head saying Paul or whatever, because they have that like scene in the beginning where they're like, alone together or whatever.
He's a fucking Chad. I'll say that. Yeah. Like, literally, like, the sheriff in town wants to, like, punish the camp counselors for, like, trespassing or whatever. And he's like, what, you're not gonna, like, give them punishments? You're not gonna, like, make them pay for this or whatever? Yeah. And he was just like, oh, yeah, no seconds on dessert or some shit.
Right. Legend. Absolute legend. This is the one where they tell the story of Jason.
The classic story, around the fire and everything.
That so many other films, I don't want to say they ripped off after, because they do it in, like, other slashers, but because, like, people tell stories around campfires, but I don't remember, like, very many films before that, like just like ones I've watched as an adult that have like a bunch of people talking around like
Right.
telling an urban legend around that, and
Yeah.
the way it's shot, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It has one of my favorite, probably the one that if I think of a Friday the 13th kill that makes me laugh, and probably one of the first kills that I was like, I shouldn't be laughing at this, but it's so fucking funny. When the wheelchair guy gets the fucking machete
It's
to
the best kill.
face,
Yeah.
and then he falls down that super long flight of stairs that also has a flat middle part, and he has to fall or like slide backwards down a whole nother set. It fucking zooms in on his body and his face, and his hands are flailing, and it's so fucking obscene and absurd. Not only is the whole thing absurd itself, but the fact that the wheelchair just didn't flip over and stop at one point, it's like it's just too fucking good. Like, and I feel bad for that dude because that dude was actually just a really nice guy in the entire film, and then he's just like, hello, he gets he's like,
Right.
seeing who's there, and just gets fucking destroyed.
Yeah. It's the best kill in the kills in this aren't as elaborate as they would get, but still, it's still Jason kind of figuring out what to do.
I like Jason running around with a pitchfork, you
Yeah.
know, and like obviously him jumping through the window is iconic. I don't know what else to say about it. I've said about it in the other ones. I really think it's one of the best horror sequels of all time. Like points you brought up, there's an innocence to it. There's it's just everything. It's got everything. It's got very good early gore, like even just the machete to the face. I mean,
Right.
the kills that it does do stuff. It has a variety of kills, honestly. I guess all of them do, but it just hits. Everything hits. I don't know what else to
Everything
say about
hits.
it.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Jason was played by a woman in this. The first time you ever see Jason, the feet in the thing.
Oh, really?
Jason's first ever appearance, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that opening scene, I guess that was all like ad-lib too.
Oh,
Like,
really?
They didn't give her a script. Well, she thought she was going to be in the film more, and she thought it was like weird they didn't give her a script, and so like they show up, she ad-libs this thing, and then she dies. So,
I was gonna say before we cut it, I knew Steve Miner directed this.
right.
He also produced it. What, didn't he do a Halloween film?
I think he did Friday Part 3 right after this, and he do 2 and 3.
Oh yeah, he's the only person that's done 2 Friday the 13th
He did.
films. You're
You know
right.
what he did? He did H2O.
I was just gonna say he did that was the one I thought. I'm like, Steve Meyer did H2O, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because the guy who directed, as we talked about, the guy who directed Halloween 2 also directed
Directed
Resurrection.
Resurrection.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I was trying not to get confused there. But yeah, fucking legend. Both guys legends in my opinion. I just think it's cool that he did a Halloween film and multiple Friday the 13th films. Yeah, that's right. I was just thinking about that. I just read about that he's the only one that's done 2.
Yeah. But yeah, it's really good. It's a shame they couldn't get Savini back for the effects, but I mean, it is what it is.
Still good. It still holds up. I mean, it wasn't like they didn't shy away from the kills or anything. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's well. Any closing remarks?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm glad I went back and rewatched all these. I mean, it had been since like early high school, junior high since I saw some of these.
Right.
Because like Part 7 I only saw like once. So like
Whoa, really?
I'm glad I got to watch it again. Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that we were able to do this.
I think it went a lot better. Hopefully, if people listening out there.
Miles was nervous about this, ladies and gents.
I don't know. I don't know why. You know, just I really love these films. These are a big part of my youth. I don't know why I love a mass murdering serial killer that wears a hockey mask that kills a bunch of hot chicks and stupid guys in through 12 films, but there's something very American about the films. There's something I don't know. It's just got it. It's got it for me.
So what's next, Miles? What else are we doing this month?
Well, I think we might have a couple. I'd just say we can call them horror talks. They could be hot takes. They could be thoughts. I think
Horror hot takes, horror random facts, or whatever we do.
I'll try to put a little bit together, to little couple notes or things together, so we can do a little bit of talking on that. I don't know. I know you have some other things planned in the works for October. Maybe I'll be on those. I don't know. You'll have to see. I know you always have something spinning up there in the works, so
yeah,
we'll see where the month takes us.
What franchise are we gonna do next year?
Whew. I got a couple ideas, but we're not gonna talk about that.
We're not gonna spoil it.
We're not gonna spoil
because
that.
we've done the big three.
We've done the big
So
three.
we gotta do something modern. We gotta do another 80s. I mean, you guys are just gonna have to tune in and find out.
I think thinking we might even up the ante next year.
Oh yeah.
Thinking we might do 2 franchises in one season.
Oh yeah.
So
interesting.
we'll see, but we're definitely gonna put a little bit more time and thought into those, because these are things, I mean, watched quite a bit. The 3 big franchises, watched enough. Some of these
we'll get into some deep cuts, maybe.
Some deep cuts. Maybe we'll see what we think of them.
It won't be Paranormal Activity. We got to get Jared in on that one.
God. All right, yeah, it won't be that. It won't, maybe.
That'll be a brain damage special. Maybe a Patreon special.
Oh my God, I think I'll get brain damage watching Paranormal Activity 1 again. Jesus Christ. Well, thank you for having me on. It's been a good start to the month. I think this might be the longest podcast we've done. My back. I
think the horror sequels one was like over 4 hours, so I don't know if this is the longest one we've done.
Wasn't it separated though?
It was separated, yeah, but the longest continual record session for sure.
Okay. God, my back is in. I feel my almost 34-year-old back. My dog is. I don't even know if my dog's breathing right now. Oh, he is. He opened his eyes.
Yeah, he'll be almost 35 when this comes out.
Mocha. No, I'll be almost 34. I'm still 33.
Oh, you're 33. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I mean, unless we record for a year. If you want to record for a year straight.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. Well, let us know what your favorite Friday the 13th films are.
I really would like to hear or see some comments or something. Hopefully, maybe we'll do another one in the month of October, and maybe we could read some of these comments out.
Read some comments. I mean, I have a top list from someone that I'm friends with. I know we didn't discuss Dan's list, but you can roast Dan a little bit.
We'll see.
About his.
Maybe we'll touch back on touch base on this later in the month.
It'd be cool, like at the end of October, to just kind of do like a recap of like some of the shows we did with like feedback and stuff like that.
That would be cool.
So we'll see.
If you guys haven't listened, Buddy does have the Halloween podcast, which I really do think is a pretty good listen back. I know that sounds like I'm just boosting my own ego, but I had a really good time doing that. And then also the Nightmare on Elm Street. I thought both of those were actually probably some of my favorite ones I've done, including this. So.
And the horror sequels ones. Horror sequels
good, yeah.
The bigger shows are always my favorite, because I mean there's more thought that goes into them and stuff like that. I mean I love doing random horror facts and shit like that. But like if you're talking like the god tier like big shows, like yeah.
If you've made it this far or made it through the big 3 franchises, thank you. I've enjoyed doing this. Thank you for listening to me talk about these things I love. I feel like I could be a little bit more prepared, but it's getting late. We've done a lot of these to the late hours on some weeknights.
True.
I should be home. I should pretty much be in bed right now, and I stay up late. But it's all right. There's always another day. I can always sleep more tomorrow night, right?
True. There's always tomorrow.
Buddies, what are you off tomorrow?
I am off tomorrow.
Yeah, see,
so
you can say that.
Wonderful.
My back's screaming at me because I'm usually falling asleep in a fucking recliner at this point. I do have fresh sheets on my bed, so I don't know.
That's something.
Maybe go home tonight. Jason will be in there. He'll fucking stab me right through my fucking
brand
white
new
sheets.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. I'm gonna see you guys back in the outro to this episode. Miles, just want to say thanks for coming on. It's always a good time.
Thank you for having me, honestly. It means a lot.
But that's about it for this time, you guys. I hope you enjoyed us ranking every single film in the Friday the 13th franchise. And I want to hear from you guys. What are your favorite films from this illustrious slasher series? If you're on YouTube, let me know down in the comments section below, or get in touch with me through any of my social media sites. All the links are down in the description below. And with that said, I'll see you guys back here again for another episode of the House of Horror coming up very, very soon. So take care and stay spooky.